They say madness begins quietly, not with screams, not with chaos, but with a whisper, a soft crack in the mind, a silence that grows louder each day. That's how it began for her. They called her Ophelia, a girl made of sunlight and sorrow, a fragile bloom in a world of iron and cruelty. To the world she was sweet, gentle, harmless, but beneath that softness lived a heart too pure for the dirt of the world around her. She didn't just love, she believed in love. She thought love could heal, could save, could make broken men whole again. And for that, she was destroyed. Ophelia lived in a world ruled by men who mistook control for wisdom and silence for virtue. Her father, Polonius, treated her not as a soul, but as a tool, a pawn in the schemes of power. And Hamlet, the man she loved, saw her as a mirror, something to reflect his own madness, his grief, his rage. She became an echo in other people's stories, never her own. But before we drown her, let's remember who she really was. Because Ophelia was not just a victim, she was a symbol of what happens when innocence meets the brutality of the world. She was young, naive, yes, but pure, in a way that terrifies people, because purity exposes the corruption around it. When you love without strategy, when you give without armor, you become a mirror, and people can't stand to see their ugliness reflected back. Hamlet loved her. And then he didn't. One day she was his salvation. The next day she was a stranger. And she, desperate to understand, tried to hold on, to love, to reason, to herself. But have you ever tried to hold water in your hands? That's what it feels like to love someone who is slipping away. Hamlet's rejection didn't just break her heart, it broke her identity. Because for women like Ophelia, love isn't just an emotion, it's existence. She lived for connection, for being seen, for being chosen. And when that light went out, she began to disappear. They say she went mad. But what if she simply saw the truth too clearly? That love in this world is not a safe place. That goodness doesn't guarantee mercy. That devotion doesn't save you, it drowns you. Her madness wasn't a loss of reason. It was the collapse of illusion. Imagine her wandering through the halls, singing to no one, holding flowers as if they could speak back. Those songs weren't nonsense, they were confessions. Every word she sang was a memory, a plea, a fragment of what was taken from her. In psychology, we would call it dissociation, when pain becomes too great for the conscious mind to bear. When the world turns too cruel, the mind builds a softer one to survive in. Ophelia didn't lose her mind, she built a quieter one, where love could still be kind. But no one tried to understand her. No one asked, "What broke you?" They only asked, "What's wrong with her?" And that's the tragedy of being sensitive in a world that glorifies indifference. People will call you fragile when you're actually just feeling everything they're too afraid to face. Her father's death, Hamlet's rejection, society's silence, they didn't kill her in one moment. They slowly pulled her apart. Until one day she walked by the river, carrying flowers like prayers. And the water, calm, endless, forgiving, called to her. People say she fell, but I think she let go, because sometimes letting go is the only way left to take back control. The water became her confessional, her escape, her rebirth. It was the one place where no one could talk over her, silence her, or define her. The current cradled her, as if the universe finally said, "Rest now." To us, she drowned, but to her, she returned home. Her story is more than Shakespeare's tragedy. It's a reflection of how the world still treats women who feel too deeply. When they cry, they're dramatic. When they love, they're obsessive. When they speak, they're hysterical. And when they finally break, we call it madness. But what if madness is just what happens when the heart finally refuses to lie anymore? Ophelia was not weak. She was honest in a dishonest world. She was love, in its purest and most dangerous form. And maybe that's why she terrifies us, because she reminds us of the parts of ourselves we've buried to survive. Think about it. How many times have you silenced your feelings to be reasonable? How many times have you swallowed pain just to keep the peace? How many times have you pretended not to care, just to avoid being called too much? That's the Ophelia inside all of us, the part that still feels too deeply in a world that rewards numbness, the part that still believes in love, even after being hurt, the part that still sings, even when no one is listening. Her death is not just an ending, is a question. What happens to a soul that loves more than the world allows? What happens to innocence when the world keeps punishing purity? And what happens to a woman who finally realizes that no one ever really saw her at all? When we look at Ophelia, we see tragedy. But what if we saw courage, the courage to feel, to fall, to lose everything, and still choose tenderness over bitterness? Maybe Ophelia's drowning was not surrender, but transformation. Maybe the water didn't take her life, maybe it gave her back to herself, because some souls are too gentle for the noise of this world, and sometimes the only way to survive the storm is to become the stillness beneath it. So remember her, not as the girl who went mad, but as the one who loved too deeply in a world that forgot how to. And if you ever find yourself on the edge, overwhelmed by love, by loss, by the ache of being misunderstood, think of Ophelia and ask yourself, what if feeling deeply is not a curse, but the last proof that you're still alive?